What's going on, my people? Welcome back to the IGLOOSIVE podcast. I am your host, Polar Bear. As always, I try and bring not only comedians, but other people who are inspirational as well as comedians. And I like to talk about their journey and where they've been. And today, I have a very special guest with me today that I have known for a few years. Y'all give it up for my buddy, Mike G.
Hey, we here, baby.
Polar bear. Now we getting busy, bridging the gap. Cooler than the polar bear. Born in the game.
Yeah, how's it going, man?
Oh man, come on, man. I just got to pull your skin back one more time, bro. This is dope.
Thanks, man.
It's amazing.
I appreciate it, bro.
We here, baby.
Yep, hell yeah, and I appreciate you being on the pod. And you know, we're gonna get into it, man. We're gonna have some fun. And when he talks about pulling back the skin, he's talking about my penis. All right, so just for the ones who don't know, I want to let you know what's going on. All right,
Stuff that wasn't clipped.
Yeah,
He's wearing a beanie.
But I am circumcised though, so
That's disgusting.
shit. No, it's not.
I don't know.
When your penis looks like an anteater, that's disgusting. Yeah. Fucking shit looks like a push pop.
That visual,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like if it just rubs, all day on your
No.
I don't even know why I was going there, but all right.
So this is Mike G. He's not circumcised. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
What's going on?
We're getting right into penises when we start.
Clothes are off.
All right.
Matter of fact, this morning I was getting dressed, and again, when I get out of the shower or whatever, I was getting dressed, and I talking about that. I put on my shirt first before I did boxers or anything.
That's weird.
And it felt weird, bro.
That's fucking weird.
I put on my shirt and I was on my way to go get the boxers, and I immediately took off the shirt because it felt like a skirt or something. I was like, you can't put on your shirt first.
Yeah. No, that's fucking weird. You're like t-shirt with panties on, but you don't have any panties, so you're just wearing t-shirts.
And I was just like running to the house.
Yeah,
like,
don't ever do that again.
Yeah, I immediately took it off.
Look like you just got some good dick.
The walk of shame.
Yeah, that's fucking awful. Yeah.
I don't know why my mind went there. But
I don't know. When I get out of the shower, I don't even like to look at myself in the mirror because I'm a grower, not a shower. Like, I hate seeing my dick in the mirror. It's just reminds me how sad it is. Like, I'll even like slouch a little bit so like my dick doesn't go in the mirror. It like gets cut off by the counter, so I can't see it in the mirror. Fucking weird.
Damn.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it that bad?
It's pretty fucking small, dude. It's not
You've
great.
been working out. You've been on this workout journey. I think I don't know.
What they say is every 35 pounds, you gain an extra inch of dick. I am at 29 pounds. Now, unless I lose 6 pounds and I gain 0.9 inches of dick, cool. But I think I've got like a 0.1 inch, like that I can't even tell. Nothing. Like it looks the same. I'm like, dude, how much weight do I have to lose? How does this fucking work? Y'all are lying.
I think you got to try again.
No, dude, fuck that shit.
Try again.
Anyways, enough about dicks.
Yeah,
let's get into it, okay? So, Mike G, for those of y'all who don't know, you're probably looking at the widescreen angle, and you see that his leg has a sticker on it. Oh no, that's that's a nub. It's a little Nubby McNubberson right there.
Yeah.
So, wave to him.
Wait, the foot or the whole thing?
The nub.
Just do the whole thing.
Wave the nub. That's great.
Side view. You get a side view.
Hey, there it is.
Dinosaur.
Oh, T-Rex legs.
All right. My kickstand up.
I just on the wide angle, it just looks like looks like a big dick. It looks like the tip of a giant penis. Fuck, dude.
You don't even want to see me put on the actual liner because that looks like it's almost like the way you put on the liner is almost the same way you put on a condom. You got to take it off and then you roll it on.
Nice.
So nice. People are always asking me, "Hey, can you show me how to do it?" I'm like, it just feels weird when I'm out, like because I'm putting the liner on them and I'm just
you're all using your mouth.
Disgusting. It's disgusting.
All right, so for the people who don't know, explain to everybody how this happened to you.
Oh man, I used to be a club promoter, and part of being a club promoter is you're always out, you're drinking, you're showing love to different clubs, and again the whole thing is to try to get people to come to your club. So I would go around to these different clubs and just show love. And one of these days I had went to this club called 8811. And it was like a popping club at that time, and I'm wasted that whole night. And I remember getting there. We order a bunch of shots, and a fight breaks out. We're all drunk. They kick us out of the club, and when they kick us out of the club, we get into a fight in the parking lot, and I broke my hand, as you can see right here. And I just got a motorcycle before this night. I had just got a motorcycle 2 weeks ago. I haven't had the motorcycle long. Again, drinking all night in this club. I get into a fight, so now I can't drive the bike the way that I want to. So my friend Tino, he's again, we get into a fight. I'm trying to get on the bike, and I'm trying to leave because they're like, "Yo, you got to go." I'm on a GPS monitor on this foot. I had a GPS monitor.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so my curfew was 3:00 in the morning. So again, they knew that I was a club promoter, so they were like, they couldn't stop me from going to my job, which was the clubs. So I'm in the clubs with a monitor.
Loophole.
There's a loophole.
Love it.
So I love the crowd. So I got to get home. So I'm trying to start the bike, and you have to, I don't know what this is, the clutch or whatever, the gear shift, and then the clutch. Well, I'm trying to push it into gear, and I can't because, again, my hand's broken. I ended up getting 2 rods in this hand. So my friend Tino's like, "Get in my car. I'll take your bike," and then so I'm like, "Bet." So I get in his car. He's freaking on E, man. He's at the club. He was at the club on E. Drinks were on him though.
Hey.
So we're driving. I'm like, "Hey," and I live kind of far from where the club is, so I'm like, "Hey, like, man, your car's on E." So we pull into the gas station. He didn't have a card, obviously, because he would have did it at the pump. So he tried going inside to the place. Well, when he did that split second, I was like, I'm going to jump on this bike and I'm going to go home and I'm going to be all right. I jumped on the bike. I don't know how I figured it out, but I figured out a way to put it into gear, and I got on the bike and I went on the highway. I was going home again. I was like almost 3:00 in the morning. My curfew was like 3:30. I'm hauling ass to go home. I passed up a cop going 100 miles an hour, and the cop hit his lights, and then I'm like, damn. So now I'm really like, I ain't stopping. So I'm going a little bit more down. I missed my exit again because I couldn't control the bike. I have no helmet on, and I'm riding, and I'm trying to outrun the cop. And I keep looking back because, again, I want to see where he's at, but I'm also trying to see where I'm going.
You're running from the cop because you're trying to get home because you don't want to go to jail because of your ankle monitor. But fucking chasing. Yeah, I ain't going back to jail. I gotta get home. My ankle monitor, but I'm gonna do a fucking highway speed chase that'll throw me in jail. All right.
But if I get away, I'm good.
Yeah.
So I'm going back again. I'm going over 100 miles an hour. The wind. I'm just trying to stay as low on the windshield. I looked back. The cop was nowhere in sight. I ended up exiting off of Vance Jackson in San Antonio, Texas. And when I exited, there was a car that's their lights, their back tail lights weren't on for whatever fucking reason. I don't know, whatever it is. But they didn't have back tail lights. And I hit the back of the car. I hit the back of the SUV. I tried to swerve, so I kind of clipped it. But it clipped it enough to where I hit the barrier, like those cement things, and my foot turned around twice. I fell. I slid. I fell. I slid 500 feet. My bike slid 500 feet. And I was in the street. Next thing I know, I hear a car that kind of braking, like, because I'm in the street. And again, it's 3:30 in the morning. I just remember like hearing. I couldn't see nothing because I had blood obviously all over my head. And I just remember some guys like, hey, man, like, calm down. I'm like, bro, like, throw me in the ditch. Like, bro, like, I'm trying to, like, get up. And I'm trying to, like, I was so high on cocaine and I was drunk. Like, 3 times over the limit. I had an 8-ball in my pocket. Like, it was going down that night.
Yeah.
And
good times.
Man, wow. Yeah. So I just remember, like, I was just like, hey, bro, like, put me, like, they're going to take me to jail, bro. Like, throw me. He's like, bro, I got to call the cops, bro. Like, your leg is, and I just remember passing out. I remember being in the ambulance, and I kind of like in and out. And then I get to the hospital and they're like, hey, do you have a number that you can give us? I gave them a number. And then the last thing I remember is the doctor saying, hey, this is going to hurt. And they picked up my foot and kind of like, and I just passed out. When I wake up, I'm in my room, right? And my girl at the time, my brother's there, my other brother's there, and I wake up and they're like, hey, bro, like you're off probation, like, and I'm like, what, like, and so I get arrested. I had no ID or nothing. So I mean, I go to the hospital. I'm sitting there at the hospital where they're like, hey, he doesn't have no ID, but he has this thing on his leg. So they called the probation and they're like, hey, we got this guy. He has this thing. So they tried to come and identify me, but my face and everything was so messed up that they couldn't do fingerprints because my hands were swollen. So they were like, we can't. And I just got put on probation. So my probation officer was like, I don't know if this is him. Like, I can't tell, but if that was on his ankle, that's him. So basically, they told the hospital told my probation officer that I was gonna die. Like, you know, he's gonna die. So they were like, well, look, my probation officer was telling my girl, instead of us like having him handcuffed here and having a cop outside the room because y'all won't be able to say your goodbyes, I'll go to the court and I'll ask the judge if they can cut him off because, you know, he's gonna die. So he goes to the court, tells the judge if they can let me off, and they hey, cut him off. They cut me off. I wake up that afternoon. And the papers are already dropped. I'm no longer on probation. They dismissed the case. I'm done. I wake up. I am no longer died, right?
So you're playing hooky and shit. Like, I'm on probation. All right, yeah, I'm good. Let's go. Yeah. I'm fucking with y'all.
Gotcha. So, I mean, they literally let me off. And then again, the damage to my ankle was bad. Again, the ankle bone is the only bone that they cannot replicate. They can do the shoulder, elbow, finger, everything. But the ankle, just the way that it's built, they can't. So I had pins in my leg that was like this, and again, that didn't stop me from going out. I was still fighting with the leg. I mean, I was just like battering the leg. It was, but I couldn't really walk on it. So after 18 months and 23 surgeries, I decided to cut my leg. And when I tell you, I got to the point to where I was walking around and my ankle was just fucking like, I was the elephant man. Like, my ankle would just swell up. I would have to sit down for like 2 to 3 days, and then now I'm good. If I had that one day, boy, listen, that one day I'm gonna tear it up because I know I'm gonna be sitting down. So I made the decision to cut it, and then when I did, I didn't realize how fucking expensive prosthetic legs were. And after that, I went almost 2 years without a prosthetic leg, man.
How much are prosthetic legs for the people who don't know?
So mine, this one right here, is about $35,000.
Damn.
Yeah.
$35,000.
$35,000. Like, I didn't have $35,000 just sitting around. Some prosthetic legs, I think the most expensive legs that I've seen. And then again, it's so the higher that you go, of course, the more technology you need. So the people who lose their knee, they have like they got Bluetooth on their damn phone. They can like, yo, I'm about to power walk mode, and it fucking
damn,
and it knows the way they walk. So they use it for a couple of days, and then it'll program off of their it's like a damn smartphone.
That's fucking nuts.
It's wild. And those legs, I think, are like 60,000, 70,000. Like, they're expensive, bro. And then again, the hands. You go to the hands. The hands, it's at least 80,000, 60,000. I mean, just for a basic one. So, yeah, it was terrible, man.
Damn, that's fucking rough. I remember, I don't even know if I told you this, but you were here, I want to say, like a month or 2 months ago when I barbecued and stuff, and we were chilling and chopping it up or whatever.
Yeah.
We were outside and we were smoking, and like, for those of y'all who don't know, I have gout, and my foot was hurting, and we were outside, we were smoking, and I was like, and we got done. And I was like, you know, let's go inside. I was going to tell you, let's go inside because my foot's hurting. I want to sit down. And I was going to tell you, and I look down and I see your prosthetic, and I'm like, man, ain't this a bitch? Like, I can't tell this dude, like, hey, I'm going to go sit down because my feet hurt. And I'm just rubbing it in. Y'all got a fucking nub. You're like, yeah, dude, I don't give a shit. Like,
do you think I care about your little gout?
And so I sat there and I fucking took it, and I was like, whatever.
No, but you know what's crazy is, again, I would have never known. But again, your feet are everything. And until I lost my leg and I was sitting at the house for almost 2 years without a leg, like, that right there will, I mean, it literally takes everything away from you. Everything that to take care of yourself. Like, it makes everything just more harder. So, I mean, even something like gout, like when you first told me, I made a joke like, hey, cut that thing off. You're like, well, I got it in both. Cut them off. Cut both of them out. But again, man, that will literally mess up your whole day, because what you want to do, like, again, and that's why I made the decision to amputate, because it got to the point to where I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And it was a scary decision, cutting my leg. And you know, now I work for a prosthetic company helping people make the decision to cut. Like, I almost feel like the Grim Reaper for the foot. Yeah. Because anytime, like, they don't know it, but the doctors call me in when they're like, there's nothing else I can do to, like, can you talk to them about the amputation? So I'm coming in and they're like, oh, hey, and in my head I'm like, yo, that foot's coming off, like, and I just explained to them, like, again, how I'm living, and then they see me walking, they're like, dang, if you could walk like that, like, I'll be all right, like, bet, cut it off, and I get these people walking.
That's crazy, man. That's nuts.
It's mind blowing.
What's the hardest obstacle you had to overcome after you did the procedure and had to become an amputee? Like, what was the hardest thing to get past, or like get in your mind, whether it's physical or mental?
I think it was the mental part, and it was believing that I would. Again, when I was going to these prosthetic companies, they were like, no, like, for the leg that I wanted, because I was like, I want to be able to run, I want to do this, and they were like, oh, okay, bet. And then they're like, oh, it's about $40,000. So I'm like, damn, well, like, I don't have that. And they were like, basically, well, come back when you got it, you know, or when you got insurance, because they're not gonna do that for you. And so for me at that point, I figured in my head, this wheelchair is where I'm at the rest of my life. And it was my fault.
Yeah,
I was drinking and driving. I was running from the cops. I broke my hand, and I so again, the mental part of just, you stupid ass.
Yeah.
Look what you did to yourself. Look what you got to go through. You can't, and again, it eats you up, but you can't even show that publicly, because it's like, y'all all saw me wreck my fucking life. Like, now I'm gonna be here crying about it. Like, so you have to just deal with it. And I think that was the hardest thing. Is like, damn, I'll never walk again. I'll never. Now that I look at it, now that I have a prosthetic, I'm like, damn, I wish I would have known this, because I would have never went through that. Oh, like, I used to, like,
playing a victim,
bro. What? I used to put on Adele. I used to put on the saddest music. I had Adele. Someone I used to know. Like, I had a song. I had a playlist. Like, everybody, my kids, everybody would go to school, and I'm closing the blinds. I'm fucking putting the sad music on, and I'm just like, fuck, like, you know, I'm trying to clean up and do what I can, but I mean, what you could do so much. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's no,
that's fucking rough. Is there anything that you can do now that you couldn't do before? Like, now that you have, like, a prosthetic leg, is there anything that, like, you find yourself like, I could have never done this when I had both legs, you know, like? Oh
yeah, I tell people all the time that I've gotten further in life with one leg than I ever did with two. And that's because I understood that time that I was down, I was like, you stupid ass, you did this to yourself. And I told myself that if I ever get a chance to walk again, I'm going to do things that I was never able to. So everything that I've been doing in my life since I got a prosthetic leg is everything that I wasn't doing before. Like, yeah, I go fucking kayaking now. I love, you know, just being outside. I love, again, I just love activities. I love, like, again, I went skating. I went bike riding. Like, I don't ever do that shit before, but
Right.
I knew how much I missed out on life when I sat there and I said, man, if I ever get a chance again, I gotta, like, and again, they say statistically, you get 95% of your mobility back with your prosthetic leg. And I haven't ran into that 5% because I've been able to do everything. Like, I do shit just because I want to say, like, let me see if I can do this.
Right.
And I go and do it, and I'm like, damn. And so I'll make a video, and other amputees are like, damn, like, I was afraid to do that. And again, I get it, because you never think that you'll go back. But the way that they make them today, it's like night and day from what they used to have.
Right.
Night and day.
So almost, I would imagine losing your leg was one of the hardest things to overcome. But once you overcome it, it's almost like your mentality now is a super strength for you.
Dude, I'm like, you cut my leg off and I came back. But it ain't me. It's God. Because,
Right.
again, that's how I met God. I met God getting my leg cut off. And, again, I was on, when they say, like, you were on the highway to hell, I was literally on that highway and crashed on there. And I'm glad I didn't get to the other exit of hell. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
That could have been it right there. And slid your way right into.
Slid your way, and I crashed right before I did the other exit. That's wild, man. Thank you, God. I take that one.
It is,
But
man.
I was on that highway to hell. And again, this amputation, and I tell people, for me, the amputee part of it was almost like, I think I was over my feet limit. I was over my steps, right? I was living life too fast, and God was like, yo, you're over your steps already. Like,
Right.
we got to take one, because
Yeah.
you got to slow down.
Yeah.
And I looking back at it now, I think that I was broken like that, because I would never be where I'm at if I wasn't broken the way that I was. Because there was no other way that it was going to get to me.
Yeah.
No other way.
Yeah.
None. At all.
Yeah. No, that's wild, man. And bringing up God, I remember one of the conversations that you and I had. It was after you brought Nick and Dan
Yeah.
out, and he invited me to a private party, and it was at Sugar's, a strip club in San Antonio.
Yep.
And we went out there, we did that, and we went to go get tacos. And I remember sitting in the car, and you were just like, you were broken, bro. Because you had invested so much money into them coming out, and it bombed. You lost how much money that night?
Oh, bro. I think altogether, because of everybody that I had to pay, I think I was out almost like $4,000. Almost like, it was more, because I had other people, like I had security for them, so it was almost around $5,000. It was four something, but I had other things on the side that I always, again, my thing was I always hired in. If you were in my crowd, like, dude, you had a job, you're big, you're security, like, come with us.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and that you say that. The event was great, but they were letting in so many people. Like, they were just letting people in, and my door was like, I was supposed to make the money on the door. And I remember we were sitting in front of that taco place, and you were telling me about God. And at that time, I still didn't know God. And you had a relationship, and I remember it was just, the night didn't go the way that I planned it.
Yeah.
And I remember we were sitting there, and I was just like, bro, I just lost. Like, I don't even know how I'm going to, like, I don't know how. And you were like, bro, God will work it out. And I was like, yeah, but I don't see it right now. And then to get to where we are now, it just blows my mind, because it's crazy, man.
It is. It blew my mind later on in life, because I didn't know what I was doing at that time, because I was just talking, like I know what God's done in my life, and how he's brought me through stuff, and how he's been there for me, and how he's provided for me when I didn't think I was going to make ends meet.
Come on.
And so I was just talking to you. And then when you told me how much of an effect it had on you later down the line, I was like, man, I was literally in a strip club making it rain on somebody's daughter an hour before I had this conversation about God that changed your life, which is, it's a crazy thing to say out loud, but it's also a beautiful thing to say out loud, because you never know what person and what situation God's going to use to get the glory and to witness to others.
You ain't lying. Because at that time, I was using all my dope money that I had, the last of it. And we put, not only that, but our income tax. I think my girl put in like part of her income tax on that money too. Because we had to pay like a deposit again for them ahead of time. And again, while they were down here, when I brought them down here, I wanted them to feel like how I looked at them. Like, bro, they were on top of the game. Oh, baby, what are you doing, baby?
Yeah. Nick and Dan is, for the people who don't know, it was kind of the heftier black guy, the smaller white dude, and they would go into stores, and Dan would be like dancing and stuff on tables.
Piper, pick a pen,
and then Nick would be back there like, Dan,
no, baby, what is you doing?
What is you doing, baby? Yeah, those dudes.
Yeah, so I mean,
he had them out here like at the tip top of their peak of social media,
at the top of their prime. Shout out to that boy Play. That boy Play. He was also a club promoter with me, and what's so crazy is that he found them before they, like, their first video blew up, and he reached out to them and was like, hey, like, I want to book y'all because, for the club. So they were like, bet. Well, in the process of them signing the contract, they blew up, and they had other stuff going on. So he was supposed to bring them out, but he was like, you know what, y'all go do y'all's thing. And we'll bring, and so when he brought them, they were at the top. And then again, just again, spending time with them, showing them around San Antonio, getting them girls, whatever needed to be done. Like, I wanted to make sure that it was live. So yeah, it was a crazy time, man.
Yeah,
it was a crazy time.
Nah, man, and I remember you treated them very well. Like, when they were here in town, like, you took care of everything. Made sure they were good, everything. Man. And you didn't even let them know that you lost out on money.
Didn't.
You just kind of did your thing and went about it and just charged it to the game and took it on the chin and kept moving.
Oh, that was a hard one because, and then after that, I did another one with Famous Amos. And I bet you won't. I did that one with him, and I lost money on that one too. But it was because, again, at the time, I was just a drug dealer that was trying to push my money through. Just, I was trying to funnel it like, hey, let's just have fun. And so my skills of bringing, I always, hey, oh, you want to be the door girl? Come on, you could be the door girl. Oh, you're security.
Hiring friends.
Man, and again, I have built up a lot of relationships like that, but that was kind of the worst decision I've ever made. Man.
Yeah, there's consequences when you miss that friends and business.
Man. Family
and business, friends and business. Like, you mix those two things together, there's always consequences. And sometimes it works out.
It sucks because you want to be able to say, you know what, yeah, but you just can't, man.
Yep.
You can't.
And that's one thing my brother taught me is there's friends and there's business.
Come on.
There's a different relationship. Business relationship is one, friends is another. You don't have to work with somebody. You can tell them you're not going to work with them again, and you still be their friends. You always got to put yourself and your business first.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, it's 1,000% true.
Yeah. Oh no, I believe me. Now again, I work for a prosthetic company, and I want to get into that on how that came about, because that's crazy in itself, but. I mean, now what I'm doing now is everything that I was doing for a club, but I'm doing it now for a prosthetic company. I'm marketing for them. I'm also going out there and finding patients, but I also talk to the patients and tell them, like, hey, you're going to be all right. Like, and so a lot of the times when I talk to them, they're like, man, Mike, bet. And I've gotten everybody walking, man. There's been a few people that, again, that don't want to even try because they can't see themselves like this. And I'm like, they're like, oh, my girlfriend's going to see me different. I'm like, dude, you better take that thing off and swing your nub around. Like,
right.
Oh, like, stop. Like,
use it for foreplay.
It's huge. But like, Disgusting. It's a bunch of sweat.
You're gonna do it one day, don't worry. One of these days.
One of these days.
You'll be like, hey, come on.
You're going in.
Let me just rub it a little bit. Let me rub up on it.
And I don't know why, but I don't even want to go there.
What? No, come on, let's go.
I was like, I don't know why, but I wanted to ask other amputees, but like whenever I'm stretching, like my leg will go real fast.
Like when you're petting a dog and you're
but I don't know why, but it's when I stretch and it's like my foot is not there, but it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's something, and we're gonna get into the prosthetic company and everything that you're working for now. But that's something I want to talk to you about because it blew my mind. Was for the viewers who don't know or the listeners who don't know, is the phantom pain that goes in with you being an amputee. Because I remember you told me that you used to, in the very beginning, you had to put a mirror and block, and block this thing out of your mirror, but you had that so you could see two legs, so you felt like normal, right?
Yeah.
And you could still feel like all your toes, you can feel everything.
I'm moving my toes right now. They're waving to the camera if you can't see.
That's insane.
They're moving. I can feel my ankle. I can feel, and it what's so crazy is that again when they amputate your leg, they don't like burn off none of these nerves. So they just your mind is still saying, hey, your foot's there. Like I'm moving my big toe right now, and I could move all my toes, and it's crazy that you could feel that because they say that amputees are the closest to understanding like death because from one day to the next, your whole life has changed. And not only that, but with the phantom pain, whenever because again, my toes would do their own thing, like they'll move whenever they want, and I'll feel it because it's my nerves. But they almost say like that's like the memories of thinking of somebody that passed away. Like it'll just pop up out of nowhere, like, hey, you remember me? Like, and you're like, oh man, like, dang. And again, there's some of them, some phantom pains, they do hurt. Like they feel like somebody's stabbing your foot, but you can't. Yeah. You can't, there's nothing there. So what I always do is I grab my leg and I'll like massage it and I'm like just holding it, and it tricks my brain to say, hey, his foot's not there. This is where it ends. This is where it's at. And
that's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's and I think that's one of the things that people try to get over the most is like dealing with that, because they're trying to deal with the healing, but they're also like, dude, my foot is waving at me still. Like I still feel them, but their life is different. You're now in a wheelchair until you can get funding or a prosthetic leg, and it's phantom pain. It's crazy.
A girl can get with you and still make all your toes curl. She does it right.
She can, and I would actually feel it. I would actually feel it.
Hell yeah! Like, ooh, girl, you make them all right toes curl. Like what?
But she can never step on those toes. Hey come on! But I can feel it.
I like how you lost a leg and you just gave up on life with like the shoe game. You're just wearing like fucking camouflage Crocs.
You sound like my boss.
Like you literally like, what the fuck I need Jordans for, man? I'm gonna go to Academy, get some camouflage Crocs.
But I go back to the thing, like I understand how expensive this prosthetic leg is, right? So I really don't care what kind of shoes that I have on there. It's like, hey,
like, oh, you're wearing $500 Jordans? That's cute, man. This is $35,000 right here, sir.
That's real cute. But
you got 1% of what this costs, motherfucker, on your feet.
My boss is always like, what's with the Crocs? And I'm like, dude, like he's always trying to get me to change. I'm like, but I my job is again to talk to doctors, and again they'll call me and say, hey, Mike, this patient, after I'm done talking to their patient, I'll go back and tell the doctor, hey, patient said they're ready to go through the surgery or whatever it is. And I go back and forth, but he's always like, man, you're in front of the doctor. I'm like, they're wearing Crocs. He's like, yeah, but you're supposed to be different. I'm like, hey, this is what I wear. It is what it is.
So how do you do that? Talking about being at the hospital and in front of doctors and having to talk to people to tell them like, hey, just chop it off. You're going to be okay. Like that has to be like, to me, that has to be one of the hardest jobs. Because if you come in and you talk to me and I see you walking and you're like, hey, you're going to be good, just chop it off. Even still, I'd be like, I'm good, man. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't want to wear Crocs for the rest of my life. Like, I don't want to do that shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. That has to be one of the hardest things to do and like, tell people that, complete strangers too? It's not like you're telling your family or your friend. You're walking in, you've never met these people in your life. You're walking in, you're telling them, hey, you're going to be good. I had to do it. Like, how did that change your life? Because now you're working for a prosthetic company and you're going into places and you're talking to them and you're telling them to you know,
cut your leg off.
Yeah, cut your leg off. You're gonna be okay. Like, how did that even come about? First of all, like, how did you go to like places, or did they reach out to you, or was it word of mouth? How did that happen?
So I got into the accident. I did all the surgeries. I cut my leg off, and whenever I cut my leg off, that when I found out how expensive it was, I was just like, yo, I'm in the wheelchair. Let me apply for this government assistance, the Texas Medicaid type stuff, right? Mm-hmm. They'll help me pay for it. Well, being that I was a convicted felon and I have a background, they were like, yo, you can't get government assistance. Anybody that's a convicted felon, you can't get these assistances. So when I had got denied, and again, I think it was about I want to say it's about almost a year into it and again, they would deny me. I would appeal it. And so the last time that they were like, hey, we're denying you. There's no, like, don't even put an appeal because this is what it is. Mm-hmm. They basically told me that was it. And I would never forget, I was sitting in a wheelchair. My daughter and my son my daughter was on the floor. My son was on the couch. And she just told me that basically that was my last hope to walking again, right? Because the government's going to come through for you, boy, right? Yeah, right. I hung up the phone and I'll never forget, man. I cried. I cried so hard because that was my last hope. Like, oh, I got this. Like, there's a chance of me walking. And when they called me and told me no, I was like, I let it out. I was already a year in the wheelchair. It was already hard. I mean, bills are piling up. I can't even fucking, like, I was a drug dealer. Who's not going to run off on the plug with one leg? Like, right. You know what I mean? Like, who the hell is not going to rob a one-legged drug dealer?
What's he going to do, truck and chase me? Fuck out of here.
Get ran off on the plug twice. But, so I was sitting there and I just remember crying and I just remember, like, I don't know why, but I just started cussing out God. I'm like, man, fuck you, fuck your mama. She wasn't a virgin. Damn. She had sex with all these dudes and didn't know who your dad was and made up the whole, like, I was going in. Like, and I don't say that like, I'll cuss God out. I'm saying it because that's how broken I was. Right. That I was just, again, you always blame everything on God, you know, but the good stuff that happens, it was you, you know, like, no. Yeah. Everything is God, whether it's good or bad. If he allowed it to happen, it happened. So I cussed him out and I'm like, fuck your mom, fuck you. Like, I want to jump off of a bridge and I can't even walk to the motherfucker, man. Like, I'm done. If you don't show me a sign, I'm fucking checking out. But I just couldn't figure out how to kill myself without having my kids affected by it. Like, Dad couldn't, like, I wasn't enough, you know what I mean? And I couldn't figure it out. So I cried myself to sleep. I wake up, you know, kids start coming home from school and now, hey, how y'all doing? Like, I just didn't fucking break down earlier and cuss God out. Yeah. And I'm sitting there and me and my wife at the time, we were watching a movie. And I get a text message from a friend. This is about 4 hours later after cussing God out. I get a text message from my friend, and her name is Gina. And she's like, I hadn't talked to Gina at this time for almost a year and a half, maybe even longer. And she texts me out of nowhere. Hey, Mike, I'm in church right now, and I feel like God is telling me to invite you to church this Sunday. And I was like, I was scared because I was like, yo, I just cussed this dude out. Like, he's setting me up. You know, he want me to come to your house? Like, you tripping, right? But
they get baptized, motherfucker. Drown you.
Drown him. So I was like, I was just like, that was the first moment because I remember reading it. And that's all it said. Hey, Mike, I'm sitting in church right now, and I feel like God put it on my heart to invite you to church this Sunday. And I just started crying. And my wife, she was like sitting between my leg, not legs. I had my nub on her shoulder. And she's sitting there and she's like, why are you crying? I'm like, I think God is real. Because again, I mean, at this time, I'm like 30-something. Probably like 31. I never believed in God. I tried to do like the genie shit. Like, hey, God, if you let this happen, like if you let this drug deal go down, I promise I will never, I'll get out. And so I always treated God like that. And this is the first time that it was like, dang, maybe something is out there. So that was a Wednesday. That Sunday, I go to church. I take her up on that offer, and it's September 2nd, 2018. I'll never forget it. I'm sitting in the parking lot of the church, and I'm smoking weed. I'm getting high. I'm hotboxing in the car because I'm like, yo, you church people want to see a sinner? Like, you about to see one, Because for me, it was like, I still don't believe the whole church thing, right?
Right.
So I go, I'm smoking. I go inside. I'm on crutches. I sit in the back row, last row. That's where the sinners sit, and they're doing the music. They're doing the praise and worship, and the pastor, his sermon that day was called God's Plan.
God's plan. That right there is already powerful.
It was God's plan, and he's preaching for an hour and 13 minutes, and I know an hour and 13 minutes because I went back and I saw the video. But he's preaching, and then he just stops, and he's like, hey, my man back there, pick your hand up. And I'm like, he's like, you. And so I'm like, all right. And then I picked my hand up. He starts prophesying, and I was, put my hand. He's like, keep your hand up. And I'm like, oh, my bad. So I picked my hand up, and he starts telling me, he goes, man, I don't know you. I've never seen you a day in my life, man. But God kept bringing me back to you, man. And God told me to tell you that he's now about to use your life. And everything that you've ever been through, God is going to use it for his good. Ooh. And he goes, the things that God has planned for you in your life, and he prophesied over my life now. And prophesying is basically what God is telling him, and he's telling you. And so the things that he prophesied over my life for like 25 minutes. And the stuff that he was saying just blew my mind, that at that moment, right then and there, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that God was real. Because the stuff that he was telling me, I've never told nobody, not even my wife. Some of the stuff, some of the dreams that I've had in me. And again, I come from a life of criminal activity. I didn't give a damn. I had no rules. I did whatever I wanted to do, whenever I wanted to do, and however it came, it came. Yeah. In and out of prison. And at that moment, I knew God was real. I was leaving the church that day, and the pastor, on the way out, the pastor was like, if you give God 1 year of your life, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to stop doing nothing. You don't have to stop smoking, because he smelled the weed. He's like, you don't have to stop smoking. You don't have to stop drinking nothing. He said, but if you give God and you chase God and you try to dig in his word, your life will never be the same. I said, bet. What you said earlier was enough for me to, I done gave everything else a chance. Right. I thought I was going to be the next viral sensation. I thought, and then this happens, and it blew my mind. So and again, I'm still with one leg, and now it's about 4 months, and I'm like, God, you said if I go, you change my life, and ain't shit changed, It's still messed up. 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, all the way to 11 months. 11 months. 11 months. I think it was like 11 months, 2 weeks. I've been helping out a friend's son who has cancer in his leg. He's 10 years old. His name is Brian. We call him Brian Strong.
Yeah, shout out to Brian.
Yeah. Hey, matter of fact, he commented. I took a video, and he commented on it. He's like, oh, man. Oh,
dope. Yeah. Yeah, guys, I still got to meet Brian, man.
Yeah, man. Super dope. So I before I get to the Brian thing, again, I was going to church this whole time, right? I was trying to search for God. I didn't see God moving. 11 months, 2 weeks, man. I get put on the news. Lil Brian is dealing with cancer. He's 10 years old. He's playing football. He's doing all of this stuff. And he ends up, the doctors tell him, hey, the cancer's so bad that we're going to have to amputate. Well, his family was like, nah, hell nah. Like, you ain't, his mama, man. Shout out to Angie. She's a mama bear. She ain't like, hey, hold on. Before you, like, we try all this other stuff. What do you mean you can cut his leg off? So he was like, well, do we have anybody that's an amputee? And they're like, yeah, your dad's friend. So I go over there, and it's so crazy that I was already doing my job before I had a title.
Yeah.
So I go over there to him, and I'm like, yo, man, like, and he's like, man, like, you're still doing that. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna be good. Like, you're gonna have a prosthetic, like, you're gonna be all right. Well, he called the news again after all of this, because he called the news and asked the news if they can help me get a prosthetic leg. The news ran about 4 stories on me, and my story went everywhere. Like, it went everywhere. And all these prosthetic companies reached out to me to build me a leg. And at the same time, while I was in there and they were building my leg, they offered me a job to speak to people and tell people what it's like to be an amputee. And I've been there now 3.5 years, man.
Man, come on. That's a very beyond powerful testimony.
Bro.
You know? Like, it really is. And it kind of goes to show people that, like, yeah, man, you do not have to be perfect to receive God's love,
man,
whatsoever. I mean, you literally cussed God out.
Cussed him out.
Like,
and I probably I get a lot of stuff because I'm not your typical, like, I don't consider myself a Christian, right? I just don't. But I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. I don't know. Maybe it's Christians that I've met, but I just don't get along with some Christians, right? Because I know where God picked me up. He picked me up from the slums. And I don't ever want to get to a place to where, again, I know that God is in my life, but I don't ever want to get to a place to where I look back and I'm shitting on the same people that I used to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I can't stand it. And I get it. You know, you've been going to church for a long time. You've been living like this, but don't act like you don't struggle with nothing. Yeah. Don't act like, because you're not sinning the way I'm sinning, that what you're doing is no greater than fucking or lesser than what I'm doing. And again, you could smell mine, but I can't see you jacking off in the restroom or lusting after some women that's walking down the street. It's the same thing. Yep. So I tell people all the time, and again, I might get in trouble with this when I get into heaven, but I tell people, if you're ever at a point to where you just are like, you don't know what to do in your life, like, I'm like, yo, cuss God out. Like, he can handle it. He can handle, because again, some people are afraid to talk to God. And again, I don't mean it like, oh, like, fuck God, like disrespect, like, but there's a place that in everybody's walk. Now I don't feel like that. And it's because he's literally loved the hell out of me. Like, the hell out of me, where I'm like, dang, God, I don't deserve that. But you did that? But I tell people, and again, maybe when I get to heaven, God's gonna be like, you know how many people cuss me out? You know what I mean? I'm like, well, what's the percentage of them that turned over? You know, after that. But maybe I'll get in trouble when I get up there. But I tell people, cuss God out. Tell him how you really feel. Don't hold it back, because I mean that's what I did. And when I did that, he fucking offered his hand. Yeah. And was like, oh, you mad? Come here, let me love on you. Yeah. And that little spark of what that pastor preached over my life gave me enough energy for a whole year, even now, because the stuff that he prophesied then, that was 4 years ago. The stuff that he prophesied then is literally happening now. Like, it's I'm in it. I'm walking in what he talked about. Yeah. What he said God was going to do. Yeah. It's happening, and it's not even over yet.
No, it's just beginning.
It's just beginning.
And that's the beautiful thing, man. And, you know, I talk about it quite often, like, not really on the pod, but just like everyday life, is I feel like religion and Christianity sometimes gives God a bad name, you know, because there's so many people out here who are Christian, and yeah, they do great, they do everything, by the book or whatever, but like you said, there's something behind closed doors that nobody knows about. And so when you're out here and you're criticizing people, you're literally, instead of telling people to follow God, you're literally pushing them away, because then you're like, look, I don't even like, I smoked a little bit of weed, now you're gonna say that that's not Christian of me,
you're
and
going to hell.
Yeah, like never mind, I don't want anything to do with what y'all got over here, and then they leave. But everybody has their own walk. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do any of that to receive God's love, man. Like, you just have to walk your own journey and walk your own path. I have so many people who follow me from TikTok and from Instagram and like my social media, and all my skits, they're PG rated, and they see that and they come to a show, and then I'm like rated R, and I'm talking about jerking off wrong, fingering girls, coming on tits, all of that stuff. And they're like, how are you gonna share your daily devotions and talk about God and give glory to God, but you're doing this on stage and that's not right? And it's like, look, dude, like that's not for you to understand. That's between me and my God. Now, if I get in trouble for that later in life, like you do when I get up there, then it is what it is. Those are my sins that I have to answer for. Worry about your sins that you have to answer for.
That boy preaching.
I'm gonna worry about mine. You know what I'm saying?
Preaching.
Like, and that's what it is, man. Like, we all have our own things that we do in the dark that we're ashamed of and that we don't bring to light. Some of us just continue to walk with God regardless of how imperfect we are. We allow our imperfections to show.
Come on, David.
Come
on, David.
Like, we allow our imperfections to show, and we're good with it.
And I think you said it. I think you said it perfectly. Like, again, for me, I have a lot of people that follow God on the thing. And again, my life is not perfect. There's been instances that people have come to me for help, and I'm like, all right. And then I end up hurting them because I'm like, I want you to get it, but I can't force you to get it. Right. And at the same time, when you're telling me that you want help, and I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you want something real fast. Like, hey, God, can you do that? And because you don't see it right away, now God's not real. Like, and again, there's stuff that I've had to wait for. Like, again, I prayed for God to, even after I got saved, I told God that if he was real, I needed a red bird, a red bird feather. But I wanted to see the red bird fly on the thing, have him on the thing, he'll shake, and when he shakes, the feather will fall off, and I will get it. I specifically prayed for that, right? That didn't happen the way like that, but it happened 3 years later. God put a red bird in my hand. Like, I have video of it. I have video of, and again, I didn't want to stay in traffic. I was like, yo, I'm about to go smoke over here at this little park. On the way over there, I walk into this little thing. It's like a little thing where you can see nature. I walk in there. Lo and behold, there's a red bird in there. And I was telling you, when I saw it, I was like, oh my God. Like, bro, I get the red bird, I pick it up in my hand, and instantly in my head, I was like, I gotta pick a feather. And as soon as I thought that, I was sitting down, the bird flies up, and when I'm done, I have 12 red bird feathers in my hand. And I have that on video. I'll send it to you. I have that on video.
Do you understand, at least to me, just from you saying it, do you understand what those 12 red bird feathers?
I've looked into it many times, and there's man, you can go many ways. Like the 12 tribes, like there's so much
12
stuff.
disciples.
There's so much.
What I got from it is the pastor who prophesied over your life said, give God a year.
Ooh,
you had 12 bird feathers in your hand.
Saw that.
One for every month.
Come on. Bro, I'm going to send you the video. If you can, while we're talking about, cut that in. Because, bro, I'm serious, bro. Like, it blew my mind. But again, like, people are, oh, you shouldn't ask God for specific things. You should just believe. Shut up. Shut your face. Like, you have your walk. I'll have my walk. Again, I'm not saying that my walk is perfect. But I have, like, again, I don't read much of the Bible. Like, I hate reading, right? I hate reading, but I've been following God for 4 years. But now God has gotten me to the point where he's like, you have to start studying. You have to start reading. Because I hear teachings on the audio, on YouTube. I hear a sermon. I'll do it like that. but I just hate. I sit there and I don't understand the Bible.
Yeah.
So everything that I know about God is fully relationship. I can't John such and such, like I have a relationship with him, and that's how I know God. But I know God is real because I've seen the things that he's done in my life.
Yeah.
That's
It's
crazy.
And that to me is what it is. That's the walk that we all have to take. Is we have to experience God on our own and do it on our own time, because you go, like, I mean, perfect example is me. Like, my parents, we grew up in church.
Yeah.
We went to church every Sunday.
Wow.
Every Sunday, my mom tried to get me in the youth group. She was the head of the youth group. She would teach youth, and I would sit there and I would read and I would do all this stuff. I never took it serious until I wanted to take it serious. Now, don't get me wrong, that did help me, because I always had God around me and God in my life, but I never really was in tune with God like I am now. Until I wanted to be, until I quit my job, until I took that leap of faith and put it all into comedy. And I got down to the bottom of the barrel, and I had $4.40 in my bank account when I had a gig in Dallas, and I had like 3/4 of a tank, and I was like, okay, well, I can make it there.
I can make it there.
And I can sell merch, and I can get that money from the merch, and I can put gas in, and I'll get back.
Come on,
and
bro.
I went out there, and we did it, and I sold I made $150 from the show that I headlined, a headlining gig for $150, which is like just unheard of.
That is.
And I sold $300 in merch. And so I laid in bed. I had $4.40 that morning. I had like $450 when I laid in bed that night, and I remember crying and just thanking God.
Come on, man.
Because I leaned on him and he provided and he took care of me. And then the pandemic happened literally a month after that. And that's when I was supposed to go on that nationwide tour.
You bought more merch.
I put like $1,200 in the merch. I was Ubering. I was doing everything to make money to sack it up. I was doing everything.
So there's somebody that got an Uber. You were driving Uber? Or
Uber. I was driving Uber, picking people up from the airport, taking them around, dropping them off. Whatever I needed to do to make money, I was trying to make money any way that I can, because I knew I was going on this tour and I needed to buy merch.
Wow.
I stacked up money. I got like $1,200 to $1,500. I put it all into merch, and then COVID happened. I had all this merch with like maybe $47 in the account.
One day someone's going to be like, hey, you took me on the Uber.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody's going to believe them. And that guy picked me up from the airport.
Yeah. Damn, that's, man. And again, imagine you not going, because again, to drive all the way over there, knowing that, you can get there, but the whole merch and everything else, it's not guaranteed that you're going to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And then, wow, that's stepping out on faith, like, for real.
It is, man. And my dad even, like, because I made the post after it, and my dad hit me up and was like, Mijo, you could have hit me up. I could have let you borrow money. And I was like, I know, Dad, and I appreciate it, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this on my own, and I wanted to have this walk. I want to feel everything on this walk.
Come on.
Like, yeah, I can ask you for money, and I know you're going to lend it to me, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I love you for that.
But I got to do this.
But I want to do it on my own. Like, I know you're my father, but let my father provide for me. The way, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and I think that's I like that you put it that way, because I think for me that's the hardest thing of my understanding what God is I don't have an earthly father. Like, I met him one time. When I met him, he ran. Like, I met him at 28 years old. My cousin was like, hey, I was driving a U-Haul full of shit up there to Nashville, and he used my dad to say, like, hey, like, you can meet your dad when we come up here. And hey, all right, I'm just driving this U-Haul all the way to Nashville. And I ended up meeting him, but I don't have that relationship with the earthly father. So for me, my walk with God has been harder, because they always like, oh, he's like a father. Well, I don't know what the hell the father is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But there's been times where God's had to chastise you and sit your ass down. And there's, like, you understand that from a father perspective. Like, you had a dad. So the convictions that you get from God is almost like you've had it before. For me, I've been rebellious my whole life, and it's like, hey, I'm like, oh man, like it hurts, you know what I mean? So that's dope that you have that earthly and the spiritual.
Yeah, I'm very blessed for having like my actual dad because he's an amazing father. Like,
and they've been married again 50 years.
50 years. January was 50 years, man.
Come on,
it's a blessing,
50 years, bro.
And I had a bunch of friends who didn't, have a father figure.
Yeah,
a lot of them. You know, I grew up amongst the big Latino community, dude. A lot of them did. I remember I was sitting back on the back porch with my friend and we were smoking one time. And my buddy Josh Castro, he's a comedian here in Austin, and we're smoking, and he's serious as fuck. He's like, "Hey John, you have a dad, right?" And I was like, "Motherfucker, do I have a dad?" Like, he's like, "Oh, well, no, like my dad isn't present in my life." So I just started like laughing. I was like, "The fuck do you mean I got a dad? Yeah, I got a dad. I'm not a fucking Jedi, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, I got a fucking dad, dude.
Yeah, I know what a dad is.
Right.
Yeah. No, but it's crazy in the Latino community, especially us, like 80s babies. I feel like a lot of, I don't know, the community that I lived in, a lot of our parents were like, they were thrown off. Like the 80s, 60s, 70s, that shit was crazy.
Yeah.
And then for them to have kids, and it's like, again, they were learning, and the shit that we went through, I just think there will never be another time like our generation is right now, because you had some of the ones that were raised by the grandparents or stuff like that. So it's the dynamics of it is crazy.
It is, man. It really is crazy, and it's I feel like it molds people into who they need to be.
Come on, like you're what you just said. The difference between the white and Hispanic, like that you got to see both, and you see how many people relate to that shit. Like, again, for me, same thing with amputees. You don't understand what people are going through until you put it out there, and they're like, "Hey, I do that shit too," or "I'm going through that." So it definitely molds us, man. It gives us everything. Yeah, man. We all have our own walks of life, and it's crazy when you really sit back and look at it, and you start having that journey with God, and God uses different things for the glory. Like it's wild, man. It really is. It's really a journey, man. And again, I tell everybody, man, if you've given everything else a try, man, and you're at that point where you don't know, hey, just try them. Yep. Try them, because, hey, I did it, and I promise you, I'm living a life that I would have never thought I would be living. I help mentor a juvenile program. Like, I speak to the youth. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy what God would do with your dirt and what he would use it for. Yeah. And when you were here last time, like a month or two ago, you told me about going to a funeral and saying words and preaching, and that you like transferred like how many people? 60 people. 60 people. 60 people gave. And you know what's so crazy is that I always thought that God wanted, like, again, my walk with God, when it first started, like, I always thought that, like, oh, I have to be a preacher, right? Or you have to stop everything, and you have to be some fucking monk, and you have to start, So when I got with God, like, everybody was going to hell. Like, if you were doing, like, I was that person, like, yeah. I quit everything, just cold turkey, like, oh, you're going to hell. Like, hey, bro, God loves you. Like, I was putting on things like, if I ever snorted a line with you in the club, like, let's go to church. And I was tagging people. Calling them out. Ending families and relationships. I was tagging people, and they were like untagging, like messaging, hey, bro, fucking take that down. Like, nobody knows I did. I'm like, oh, shit, well, everybody knows that I do, like, right. And it was, my walk with God was, in the very beginning, was like, everybody's going to hell. And then when God molds you, and God's like, no, you'll go there with them. Like, you better stop. Right. Stop treating people like that. Stop, like, again, if you know how much I've forgiven you, that's how much forgiveness, and he's forgiven me for a lot. Like, man, his grace is ridiculous. And so the same grace that you've been given, you have to show. Yeah. And it's hard sometimes. Yep. It is. Whew, it is hard. It's crazy. It is, man. That's it's a beautiful testimony, man. And that's what I want to get through
listeners and viewers is no matter what you're going through, man, like if you ever have anything in your heart that like you want to see God, and I don't like preaching to people, like if you don't, this isn't for you, that's fine. I still love you. I'll still whatever you come to a show, I'm still gonna hug you. I'm still gonna embrace you. I'm never gonna judge you. I'm never gonna be like, oh well, you should do this and not do that, and you should do that. Like I'm never gonna shove religion down your throat or spirituality down your throat, because that's just not me.
Never.
But I can tell you with my walk that has been a beautiful walk, and that God can use people like my boy Mike here that will really do something. I mean, we opened this podcast talking about circumcised penises and rubbing his nub on a girl to foreplay, and God is using him to save 60 people. You know what I'm saying? Like God can use you right where you're at, and he'll mold you into the person he wants you to be. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a year, 2 years. It's going to take a minute, but you got to walk on that, you know, that path and that life, and you got to keep making stuff happen, man. And Mike, I appreciate you coming on the pod, man. And I want to end it this way. If you've been through a lot, you've lost a leg, you came back mentally tougher and stronger than ever. If there is somebody out there right now that is going through something that they just feel like it's the end of the world, and they're doing the victim mentality, and they're playing Adele in their house, and they're just staying at home and not doing anything. Yeah. I want you right here under that camera. I want you to talk to them and tell them, give them something, give them an uplifting speech, and tell them what they can do to help themselves get out of that.
Man, you got to be tired. You got to be tired of playing the victim. You got to be tired of thinking that this is the end. And the moment you believe that, I promise you, your life will change. But it doesn't start until because everybody can tell you, hey, you can do this, or you could try to do this, but you might not be able to do everything, but there's something that you can still do. And I think for me, I think the holding on of, man, I don't know what it's going to be, but I know something's going to happen. And I promise you, if you're at that place that you're just broken, figure out a way to have that brokenness pay you. Because now this prosthetic is paying me. My pain is paying me. And again, we all have a story. You might not have lost a leg, but you lost something. You might not be addicted, but you struggle with how you see yourself. I just encourage you to just, again, stop playing the victim and look at it. And a lot of it has to deal with us, man. It ain't nobody else. It's us. It's not somebody can't help us. Somebody can't do this. It's us, man. Definitely.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful, man. Mike, I love you, brother. Let them know where they can follow you, where they can find you on, and what you got going on.
I'm on Facebook under Ministry Garza. That's like meme, and then street like Ministry Garza. I like to make people laugh about God, so that's why I chose that, because I don't feel that I'm supposed to be a pastor, because I'm still a little rough. I don't think that's like the way for me. But right. Hey, I love making people laugh, and if I can make you laugh on my story and going through my shit and turning it into flowers, and then getting you saved, I'll deal with God when I get up there. But Ministry Garza on Facebook, Instagram, Mike_G Comedy, TikTok is Amp Life 360, I believe. Let me check. Fucking amateur.
We'll put it up. We'll put it up there for him.
Yeah, we'll get it up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate it. And again, man, I appreciate you seeing the transformation, because you seen me from beginning, and again, I'm glad that I was able to tell my testimony on here, brother.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, brother. Thank you for coming on the show. Y'all be sure to follow him, man. And he's very friendly. If you want to ask him any questions, hit him up in the DMs, and he'll reply to you and all that stuff. So thank you, everybody who tuned in, paid attention, watched, all of that good stuff. Appreciate y'all. Without y'all and your support, I am nothing. Love y'all so much, man. Polar Bear out. Be blessed.
Peace. Hell yeah, man.
Cooler than the polar bear. Born in the game.